Hey everyone, this is Zach with 8020 Media, here today with a video on 5 vehicle fluids to regularly check and why it's so important. Now, it's no secret, vehicle fluids are a very important part of your engine's operation. Some fluids are there to help lubricate the engine, cool the engine, lubricate and cool the transmission, as well as some fluids that are there for safety reasons and ensuring a safe, smooth driving experience. So again, no secret that all of these vehicle fluids are incredibly important, which also means it's important to stay on top of this maintenance and also regularly check those fluids to ensure that your engine and transmission and all of that are operating at optimal performance and efficiency, and also ensure that you do have a safe engine. So with that said, what are some of the most important fluids to check, and why is it so important to check these fluids regularly? So starting off with number 1, we have engine oil. Most of this list isn't in any particular order. However, engine oil is certainly one of the most important fluids to check on a regular basis, and that is because engines have a lot of moving parts, and it's very important for them to remain lubricated to ensure efficient, reliable operation. So oil is one of the easiest fluids to check. Almost every vehicle should have a dipstick that you can easily pull out to check your oil levels. I know some modern vehicles, BMW included, have moved to not including a dipstick and simply showing it on the digital display. And so if you have that kind of vehicle, you do have to put faith in that, but just double checking that display every so often, making sure you have enough engine oil, because if you are running low on oil for extended periods of time, it really doesn't take much to cause very serious wear and tear and damage to your engine. So again, oil is one of the easiest fluids to check, and especially as cars age, it's normal to start losing more and more oil between oil changes. So definitely check that on a regular basis. Ensure that you do have enough oil in your engine. Moving on to our second fluid, we have engine coolant. Engine coolant is responsible for cooling your engine and preventing it from overheating. When you start running low on coolant, or if you completely run out of coolant, your engine can start overheating very rapidly, and this process can occur very quickly. You can start running into serious overheating, and in this situation, it's usually best to pull over in a safe location as soon as possible and have the vehicle towed. One of the best ways to avoid any potential risks or causes of your engine overheating is simply checking your engine coolant levels. Make sure you have enough coolant in there, and double check, make sure it's not dirty or grimy or gunky and just old coolant in general. So another great fluid to check every few months or every few thousand miles, just to make sure that is topped off and you have enough coolant in the engine. Otherwise, again, you may run into very serious overheating, which can cause head gasket failures and a number of other expensive mechanical issues with your engine. Moving on to a third important fluid, we have transmission fluid. Now, on a lot of modern vehicles, it's not abnormal for transmission fluid to be labeled as a lifetime fluid and something that doesn't have to be ever changed or maintained. However, that isn't always necessarily the case. Even on a lot of those vehicles, we do still recommend changing the transmission fluid every 80 to 100,000 miles, especially if you plan to own that car for the long term. And additionally, just because you have a lifetime fluid doesn't mean that it still can't get dirty and grimy and gunky, or that you can't still lose some transmission fluid over time. This one can be a little more challenging to check depending on the make, model, and year of your vehicle. So consult your owner's manual, see how to check the transmission fluid if there is an easy way to do it. And that's a great fluid to check every few years, just to ensure that it is topped off and that you still have nice clean fluid in there. Otherwise, it can lead to very expensive transmission repair bills or complete replacement bills. Moving on to our fourth fluid on the list, we have brake fluid. Now, the first few I discussed, oil, coolant, as well as transmission fluid, are all important fluids for your vehicle to continue driving and running smoothly. On the opposite hand, brake fluid helps your vehicle stop and helps it stop faster. And ultimately, every moving car has to stop. And that's especially true if you end up in a potentially dangerous situation. If you are low on brake fluid, usually the brake pedal will require more force. You have to push it down a lot further to get the same stopping power. And ultimately, depending on how low those brake fluid levels are, you could ultimately lose overall pressure from the brakes, which ultimately slows down your stopping speed, which again can be very dangerous if you're in a certain situation where you really need maximum braking pressure. So again, brake fluid, incredibly important, just for slightly different reasons. This is something that helps you stop, and really a good safety thing to check your brake fluid every few months or every few thousand miles, just to ensure that you don't have low brake fluid or brake fluid that's potentially old and needs to be replaced. Moving on to our fifth and final important fluid to check, we have windshield wiper fluid. Now this is very, very basic. Windshield wiper fluid has no really other reason other than keeping your windshield clean. However, it's no secret seeing out of your windshield while driving is very important, so this is really a huge safety thing. If you're driving in certain sun glares or wet roads, snowy roads, any muddy, dirty roads, anything that can really kick up stuff on your windshield and make it dirty quickly, can be very dangerous to drive around like that without having windshield wiper fluid in your reservoir. I know this is basic, but I've run into it a few times driving up to the mountains here in Colorado, where I forgot to double check it the morning before and I need a ton of fluid the next day driving down the highway and I run out. So again, very basic fluid, something that's important and simple to check and ultimately helps ensure safety of your vehicle while you are driving. Anyway, guys, that wraps up the top 5 fluids that you should regularly check on your vehicle and also why some of these fluids are so important to check and maintain on a regular basis. A lot of it is very simple stuff, and again, these fluids are important, which means most manufacturers make these fluids very easy to check, very easy to maintain and change if they need to be changed. So understand your vehicle, check the owner's manual, research online, know where all of these fluids are, know how you can check them, and just get in the habit of checking these fluids every so often to ensure that you're getting the most reliability out of your engine and ultimately the safest driving experience you can possibly get. Anyway, guys, that wraps up our video for today. If you appreciated the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more in the future. Thanks, everybody.